to measure ourselves with regard to what is actually our God. Right?
Thank you. I'm just wondering where engaging in our passions fits into all of this. So, you know, I've discovered relatively recently that I'm really passionate about writing, and I find sometimes I can sit down to write and it's like 3 hours later and I'm like, oh, no wonder I need to go to the loo.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
Really passionate about something.
Yeah, so how does that fit in with regard to our balancing? It's about balance then, isn't it? You know? No?
No.
Okay.
No.
Can you talk about that a bit more?
Sure, again. So you're talking about what you desire. So writing is one of the things you desire. Is that right?
Yes.
So writing is one of the things you desire. Now, if your writing is in harmony with loving God, how would your writing look compared to if your writing is in harmony with loving yourself?
Interesting. Because I'm finding, like, one of the big projects I want to work on is like a family story, right? And I've had this floating around in my head for 10 years, but I don't want to write it until I can incorporate truth into it.
Well, yeah, even just looking at the desire, that one thing you mentioned, right? Mm-hmm. So the fact that you want to write about the family... Your family
tree?
Story, is it?
Yes.
Your family story. Why would a person want to do that?
Why do you want to do it?
There's a number of reasons why a person may want to do it. Some of them are loving, in harmony with God, loving God, and some of them are completely out of harmony with loving God. So what could the reasons be?
I find so it's a bit of a saga. It starts during the French Revolution, so there are about six characters, and I find the characters fascinating, and the choices that they've made in their lives really interesting. And
hang on, let's answer the question.
Yeah.
What would be a loving motivation?
You've got to get out of your story now.
Yeah.
And into answering
ironically, you've got to get out of your story.
Yes.
What would be a loving motivation to write the story, and what would be like a loving God motivation to write the story, or a love of
loving
addiction?
Yourself motivation to write the story. Does anyone want to help her?
Yes, please.
We go to Rana.
What might be a loving God reason? What might be a loving self reason?
So maybe if she wants to write it to teach stuff about God's truth, like instead of just explaining family story, like to me that would seem more like that wouldn't really help other people necessarily.
It depends.
Depends on the story, I suppose.
Depends on the story, and it depends on...
But we're not talking about what the effect it has on others. And this is where all of you go wrong. We're talking about what your personal motivation is, not the effect it has on others.
Because what motivates you will ultimately determine the effect it has on others.
Yeah.
Because it determines the quality of your product.
So what could be one of my motives to just write the story for myself?
Sheridan?
Maybe to look at the multi-generational injuries and damage that's been passed on from generation to generation through the family.
That would be in harmony with God, but not necessarily... So that may be one or the other. Can you see, if you go back to the motive, again, we're not looking at the motive, we're looking at the effect.
The action.
You're looking at the action and seeing what effects it may have, but you're still not looking at the motive. What's the motivation? So if the motivation is, I've got a lot of personal pain and I just want to work through the story to work through the pain. So is that a motivation in harmony with God or out of harmony with God?
I would be in harmony with God.
Yes, because why? What does God want for you?
Well, to
work
learn about
through.
yourself and work through your emotional injuries.
Correct. So God wants that. So that would be in harmony with God. What if I was doing it this way? What if I was thinking, I'm very nostalgic because I want to feel like I belong somewhere. And I'm writing the story for that reason.
I feel like I'm not connected.
I feel like I'm
to
really not
anyone.
connected with my family and whatever.
I just really
And I
wanna-
feel like my current family doesn't really care about me very much. And I really need to have a connection with family somewhere. So what if that was the motivation for writing a story?
Not so good.
That's unloving, isn't it? Selfish. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
helping me avoid
Yeah.
the pain rather than deal with the pain, isn't it?
What if I just want to tell a good story because I want to make money off of it?
Also not good.
That's also unloving, isn't it? But what if I want to tell a good story because I feel that if I tell a truthful, accurate story, people may learn from the different emotions in all the characters
The
and what they're
motivation.
supposed to do.
The
The
motivations of all the characters, if I'm really interested in that and how their motivations led to effects, and I'm really interested in showing that.
And to
even-
probably tell that story, I probably need to get a bit of channeling from the spirits involved because they're probably all dead now, or many of them are
Yeah.
dead now. So, I'd need to do that kind of thing to do that probably, wouldn't I?
But if I really love truth, I would. I'd attract those spirits, and they'd influence my writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's that motivation? Is that loving or unloving?
Wonderful and loving.
Yeah, that's right. So can you see it's quite easy if we're self-analytical, if we are analysing our priorities, it's quite easy to see whether our motivation to do something is loving or unloving. Like when I describe the circumstance to you, you can make the decision quite rapidly. But if I don't describe the circumstance to you and you just ask the question, should I write the story or not, what's going on now? Isn't all that's going on is seeking an approval from somebody to write the story? Is that a loving or an unloving motive?
Unloving?
Unloving.
If we take the mind back to
I love it.
I think if the only reason I was writing was to get other people's approval, I would have written it 8 years ago.
Possibly. Yeah, possibly. There's
and
also a reason why you haven't written it, which could also be unloving.
Okay. I feel for
since you
me,
love doing it, you
So
haven't
should we
done
go
it.
through those?
I
and-
do, but I feel the thing that's holding me back is, like you said, connecting with the ancestors and hearing their story.
No, it's not the
No.
reason why
No.
you're holding back.
No.
No? There's an unloving reason why you're holding back.
Okay.
Given the fact that you're passionate about writing,
Yeah.
which is in harmony with love or not?
It
It is. You're
Well, it
allowed to
depends.
write, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's in harmony with love. You're allowed to do that.
Depends on your motivation.
Depends on your motivation, what you write about,
Yeah.
as to whether it's loving or not. But the actual desire to write is not unloving motivation.
In and of
It's
itself.
in harmony with love itself.
Yeah.
Why haven't you done it?
Fear. A lot of fear.
And is that a loving or an
No.
unloving?
No.
It's an unloving one, right?
It's
Yeah.
unloving. So I need to really identify what the true fear is and then unpack that.
Yeah. Now, how does this relate to your God, though? Can you see you're just saying, I had a desire to do this thing,
Yeah.
right? But your God, fear,
Yes. Yes.
is actually determining whether you do it or not.
You're valuing your fear above the
The
passion.
story,
Yes.
the passion.
Yeah.
So your God is the fear.
Right.
The fear of who?
Oh,
What are you afraid of? There's a number of things you're afraid of.
rejection probably.
Yep.
Criticism.
That nobody will read it.
On the flip side of that, I'm fearful that people might read it and might like it, and I might get famous, and I don't want that.
Okay.
You
yeah.
don't want to be in the spotlight.
Okay. Don't like spotlight, so that's a fear.
Yeah.
What about it's a lot of effort?
Oh, but I love the research and I love the writing.
But you still haven't written it.
No. No, that's true.
Yeah. So
This is what Jesus was talking about measuring in your life
Yeah.
what's actually happening. Because
Yeah.
that tells me so much about what I value,
Yeah.
what I worship, where my God is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Many of you have good ideas.
Yeah.
Many of your ideas are in harmony with love.
Mm.
Many of you don't act upon them because of,
Yeah.
well, you call it fear, but it's really anger.
Yeah. It's the justification
The
of fear, isn't it?
justification of fear is anger. You're justifying other things that are untrue to yourself as the reason why you shouldn't do the thing that's loving. Yeah? The thing that's loving, in your case, would be writing the book. That's loving, depending on your motivation, of course, which we've looked at just now, as to what the motivation may be. Writing the book in itself is a loving act that takes time, energy, and resources. The reason why you're doing it would have to be determined. And also the reason why you're not doing it has to be determined.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, there are a few practical reasons for that, but we won't go into that.
No.
No?
No. Mention your practical reasons. We'll go down that rabbit hole.
What are they? What is the excuse?
Probably the biggest one over the last 10 years is my lack of belief in myself and my ability.
That's not a reason. That's a fear.
Well, I've spent a lot of time developing skills to overcome that.
Yeah, but that's not. None of this is reasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the most practical aspect is I'd really love somewhere to write. Like
That's not a reason.
my office is the main entry into the house.
That's not a reason.
Okay.
Nobody, not even, it's not just us not buying
If
that
you
one.
really want to do
Okay.
something,
Okay.
if you really want to do something, you'll create a place where you
I
can.
will.
Yeah,
I will.
that's not a reason.
Okay. They're the main.
Nobody's helping me write. Let's
They're the
say.
main lies I tell myself.
Nobody's giving me approval.
Nobody's going to publish it. That's not a reason. None of these are reasons. They're just excuses we make for ourselves based on the fears that we have, which are our God, which cause us to not do the thing that we say we desire. So how strong is our desire really?
Yeah, not very.
Yeah. Yeah, so the God, the fear, is dominating the desire.
Yeah.
Right? Now, God, the real God, doesn't do that. He doesn't dominate your desire. He doesn't tell you where you should put your desire. He just questions whether it's loving or not.
Right.
That's all he questions. He doesn't tell you what you do. If you think about love and you think about what love allows, there are actually an infinite number of things you could do that are loving. Yeah. And this is the interesting quality about love, that it is infinite. There are an infinite number of things you can do that are loving, and if you don't do them, you're unloving.
So really, it comes back to honest self-reflection and looking at the true motivations, and then looking at where those motivations are out of harmony with love, what I need to do to correct that.
Correct.
And
So any
then
out of
focus-
harmony with love can only be corrected emotionally.
Yes.
So it's not by gathering skills.
Yes, so before you gave the example of I feel inadequate, so I've gained all these skills. Has that helped with feeling inadequate?
No. The feeling of inadequacy is still there.
Oh, okay.
It makes sense. You gain a whole heap of skills, are you still afraid of people? Yes. You gain a whole heap of skills, are you still afraid of popularity? Yes. So this gaining the skills didn't help you with that. Right? So you've got to address the actual emotions that are your gods and get rid of them in order to actually get something done here. Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
So we started this discussion with you, though. You said, I really desire to write. And can you see now I'm even questioning your desire to write?
Yeah.
Often we do this. We're saying to ourselves, but I really desire this thing. But we never get around to really doing it. And we don't understand that that's because of what we've made our God. You see?
Yeah.
And if God was our God, we would feel from God, do it, you know what I mean? Because God's not against you doing anything that is going to bring about a positive outcome and in harmony with love. So God wants you to do these things, but he's also saying, you need to deal with why I'm not your God. I mean, God's not your God. And why you have placed instead fear as your God.
Thank you.
Yeah. And in your original question, you talked about balance.
Yeah.
But can you see that God's not going to say, just balance out that really loving desire, Linda.
You
Calm
confuse
down,
me.
you know, balance that out. Do a bit of housework, you know.
You know, care for others occasionally.
Yeah.
And,
So you're, you know, this idea of balance is really just an injured concept, because if we're motivated by
and based
love,
on fear, by the way.
yeah, based on fear, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. When you really love things, you don't feel it's a chore to do them.
No, it's not.
So if you are feeling it's a chore to do them for whatever reasons, then you know you've got something else other than the thing you love.
Yeah.
Right? So the thing you think you love is not the thing you love. So you said you love writing. Well, I don't know if you love writing yet. Now, it is true that it might be a soul passion, but at the moment you're burying it under a lot of fear-based belief systems and faith, corrupt faith, that are all your gods that are stopping you from engaging that passion.